Right, hi folks, how are we doing today? Today's video is over to the Western Highlands, and the mountains in today's video are, it's the start of some really rough and rugged terrain. From this point north basically is just probably some of the wildest, ruggest mountains in Scotland, and it does give some lovely remote wilderness hikes. The two mountains I'm on today are on the southern end of this. Well, it's three mountains actually. I've got two Munros and a Corbett in today's video. And it was a long day. We used the bikes to get in, and we're going back, I think it was 2012, and myself and my brother headed in to bag these hills. It was fantastic. It really was a fantastic area, and the Corbett involved in these mountains is probably the highlight. It muscles out the two Munros for just beauty and shapely ruggedness. It really is a fine mountain. You can see them actually. The last time I was in that area, I think I was just to the north of these hills, and there's a loch called Loch Arkaig. And at the end of that loch, you can go and do so many lovely walks, and you really are. It feels like you're in the middle of nowhere when you're out there. And I went up there and did 3 Corbetts, and you got a great view over to these mountains from this aspect. But you can do them from the north. But in today's trip, we were doing them from the south, and from the main road, the road to the Isles. And we started at the point where a certain Charles Edward Stuart landed and raised the standard in Scotland before being sent packing a few months later. So anyway, enough chatting. Let's cut to me getting myself all ready to go at this famous spot with Bonnie Prince Charlie, which is. Back in 2012, it probably was still quite a busy place, but certainly not as busy as it has been in the last few years. Anyway, enough waffling. Let's cut to me getting the bike ready for the cycle in on this cracking mountain day. So the ritual of getting the bike ready and the gear ready began in the car park while I waited for my brother to appear. And as you can probably see from the footage here, it was quite quiet. There was only a couple of other cars. I wouldn't expect that now though. If you go up there, it's a very busy place. Not only because of the Glenfinnan monument to Bonnie Prince Charlie, but there's a famous viaduct which we go under on the way up here, which is one of the most famous locations in the Harry Potter films. And we were heading up under this viaduct which was built in 1898, but there was no sign of that Hogwarts Express. The lovely smooth tarmac road lends itself really well to a bike. Even a non-mountain bike would get up here pretty easily, and it was giving us speedy progress to the bottom of the hills. And this well-maintained track takes you up eventually to Glenfinnan Lodge, but just before you get up to that point, you take a fork in the road down towards the Corryhully Bothy, and at this point, the track, I would say it did require a mountain bike. It was a bit more rocky, shall we say. And we got to the Bothy, and just beyond the Bothy is the point where the path starts up to the first Munro. So we got up here after pushing for a wee while and left the bikes and got them sorted before heading off. So leaving the bikes just up from the Bothy, and there's a signpost for the first Munro. We're doing a clockwise circuit. So there's the path, and there's So the path heads up the shoulder of the first Munro with a lovely big corrie over to the right, and it became quite a steep pool before levelling out. And the Munro, the name of the Munro, Sgurnan Corriachan, which means Hill of the Corries, and that corrie was certainly impressive. It was fairly nice. Anyway, once we'd got up the steeper ridgeline, we were up, and it was a bit more level and a bit more undulating, taking us up towards the summit, which sits at the height of 956 metres in height, and it's not too bad a viewpoint. You can see here our route up, and the views just out west from here were just absolutely lovely. After a final pull, we found ourselves reaching the summit of Sgurnan Corriachan, and yeah, the views didn't disappoint. It was a lovely day to help. The summit of the first Munro of the day. 11 o'clock, was taking us over Tuesday here. This guy, Viaduct, and there's second bridge. The street behind it, heading up later on. After loitering for a little while on the summit of the first Munro, we headed off towards the second Munro of the day, which is called Sgurhullum. It's a little bit higher at 963 metres, and the route over from the first Munro to the second Munro is an undulating ridge with a few up and down sections, but nothing too difficult, and before long we found ourselves perched on the summit. Sgurhullum. Is it called Sgurhullum? Or Thulm?
Which one's higher?
This one.
Can't be much, I don't know.
10 metres or something like that. Yeah, out of the right pace. Nice and steady. After enjoying the summit views from Sgurhullum, it was time to head on, and at this point my brother headed down back to the car. He wasn't too bothered about heading on to the Corbett, but yeah, I had the Streep in mind, and at this point I had to drop and lose quite a bit of height, I think possibly down to about 250 metres, so losing nearly 700 metres before heading steeply back up to the summit of this fantastic mountain. Before long I found myself at the bottom of the glen, crossing the Babbling Brook. I was looking over to the first Munro and the second Munro, and now I'm making the steep ascent up Streep. It's over there somewhere, hopefully not take too long. I must admit it was a fairly steep pull up onto the ridge line of Streep, and I was glad when I hit that ridge, and what a fantastic ridge it is. And as you can see, it just, yeah, it edges it in terms of aesthetic beauty over the two Munros, in my opinion. Anyway, I was soon approaching the summit and heading up that lovely conical ridge. And Streep sits just below Munro height at 909 metres, missing out by about 5 metres, and it means climbing, scaling, or a climb, which is fairly appropriate because as you get to near the summit, you do need to get your hands on the rocks. After enjoying the airy ridge and walking along, there's a lovely wee summit, and by this time the cloud was starting to infill and the weather was, yeah, it looked like it was deteriorating a little bit with a few showers kicking about, but it still wasn't bad, and those views of those rugged mountains all around were just fantastic. I hung around for a wee while, and it was back along that ridgeline and down to where I'd left my bag, and then it was the steep descent down to get back to the bike. Reaching the bike was a massive relief. I was knackered, and I knew that it was all downhill from here back down to Glenfinnan in the car. And although there was a few bits of rough cycling at the top of the path, the majority of the downhill cycle was a nice smooth tarmac, and it was just a joy. I got down pretty quickly back to that famous Harry Potter Glenfinnan Viaduct. Another fine day on the hill, and one that I can highly recommend.